Today we'll just review substitution one more time just to make sure you really understand it. So when we use substitution, we're replacing one variable with what it equals. And so you might have certain cases where you have two equations that are both y equals. So if you have y equals for both equations, this is where you can plug one into the other, or in other words, set the equations equal, solve for x, and then plug in your answer and solve for y. So let's do an example of what this looks like. So Gavin starts a new part-time job. He earns $135, which he saves and does not spend. Victoria saved $250 a week and also starts a new part-time job. She works fewer hours than Gavin, so she earns $100 a week. So we should say he earns $135 per week. Okay, so let's write a system of equations to represent this information. So for Gavin, he starts with nothing, but he earns $135 per week, whereas Victoria has some money saved up, $250, and she also gets a job and earns $100 per week. Okay, so here's a case where they're both y equals. So this is when we can set the equations equal, because essentially what you're doing is you're taking what y equals and sticking it in here. So here's what it looks like. 135x equals 250 plus 100x. Okay, next step, solve for x. So let's do that. We'll subtract 100x from each side. So I get 35x equals 250. We'll divide each side by 35. Okay, so let's take a look at that. 35. Oh, that's not very nice. Let's see. Oh, that's fine, I guess. All right, so 250 divided by... Okay, so we get about 7.143. So I should change these to wavy lines. Okay, so there it is. Okay, so then it says plug in your answer for x and solve for y. So we'll take that answer, and you can plug into either equation. So I'll just plug into Gavin's equation. So we have y equals 135 times this. And this is when we should use our answer key. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so we'll take 250 divided by 35. And again, you can see the decimal. So instead of rounding, we can take our $135 per hour and multiply it by 7. So to do that, we can just hit times and then control negative, gives us that last answer. So instead of typing in a decimal, it plugs in the exact. Okay, so here it is, 964.286. So let's write that down, 964.28, so 29 I'll add 2. So times, so y equals, already, 964.29. Okay, so let's talk about what this means. If you recall, x is the number of weeks. Okay, so after 7 weeks, 7.143 weeks, okay, so after about 7 weeks, they earn the same amount of money, or they have the same amount saved up, and that amount would be $964.29. So again, 7.143 weeks. They have the same amount of money, which is the 964.29. All right, so that's substitution when they're both y equals, and you can set them equal and solve. You can also do substitution by plugging one variable in for another. So again, here are the steps. Replace the letter with what it equals, distribute, solve. And then plug your answer into an original equation, solve with the missing letter. Okay, so here it is. If you notice, y is by itself. So let's plug that in for y. Here's what it looks like. 3, and then we're going to plug in 9 minus 2x. And then we're going to rewrite minus 2x equals 11. So there's the plugging in. Now we're going to solve. So we'll distribute. We get 27 minus 6x minus 2x equals 11. So we have 27 minus 8x equals 11. And subtract 27 from each side. Okay, so we get negative 8x equals negative 16. Divide each side by negative 8. So we get x equals 2. Okay, we're halfway done. Again, these lines would cross. They would cross when x is 2, but what about y? So then we plug into one of the original equations. I'll just plug into this one because it's already y by itself. 9 minus 2x, x is 2. So that's what we're plugging in. This becomes 9 minus 4, which is 5. So these two lines do cross, and they cross at the point 2, 5. Okay, and last one. Here x is by itself, so let's plug that in right here. So here's what it looks like. 3 parentheses 2y minus 3 minus 7x, or y, equals negative 14. So it's plugging a function into a function. All right, let's distribute, combine like terms, and solve. So you have 6y minus 9 minus 7y equals negative 14. We'll combine like terms. 6y minus 7y is negative y. Add 9 to each side. So we have negative y equals negative 5. Divide each side. There's that invisible negative 1 there. So divide each side by negative 1. So we get y equals 5. So again, these two lines do cross. They cross where y is 5. Let's solve. Oops, I didn't realize this was minimized. Let's solve for x. So now we're going to plug into this original equation. X equals 2, and plug in your 5. And then minus 3. So we get x equals 7. So these two lines do cross, and they cross at the point 7, 5. All right, so more practice on substitutions. You feel more comfortable about this than you did yesterday. And then we're going to move on to elimination tomorrow.